Welcome to the Mind Body Eating Psychology Coach Training Panel program today. I'm Elise Muselis. I'm going to be moderating the panel, and we have 4 panelists here who all have varying backgrounds, but we come together because we've all been through the training program. Just to give you a little bit about me, I am proud to call myself the very first person to enroll in the virtual training about 10 years ago. So when I had been practicing health coaching, I felt like there was something missing. I read a book from Mark David, who's the founder for the Institute for Psychology of Eating. And I was just like, I need to learn about this. Did some research, made some phone calls, and the only program they had was in person. And so I got on their email list because I heard there was talks of a virtual training program. And the minute that I got that email that said we are launching it virtually, I was in. It was a full body yes. And I'm usually the kind of person who takes a long time to make decisions, but I knew that this is what I needed to do for me and for my practice. And I have never looked back, and I can say, honestly, looking all of you in the eyes, that is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And since that time, I've worn a lot of hats. I had a thriving coach, like just one-on-one coaching practice. And then I launched a program where I got a grant from the National Institute of Health. I have served on the board of the Environmental Working Group for the last almost 10 years. EWG, you might know them. I have written 2 books. My most recent book is called Food Story: Rewrite the Way You Eat, Think, and Live. That's definitely my eating psychology baby, and the book that I had in me for a long time. I have a podcast called Once Upon a Food Story. I love to speak, moderate panels, and just do a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to do without this training. So I'm going to introduce you now to the panelists who also all went through the program, but that's just a little about me, and I'll share some more as we get into the conversation. So first, I'm going to introduce Candy to you. Candy Wright is a certified mind, body, eating psychology coach, certified life coach, an emotional healing and freedom coach, a certified menopause doula, and a certified safe space trauma-informed facilitator. She's an inspirational speaker and teacher with over 30 years of teaching, training, and coaching experience. Hi, Candy. And Carol Smith is managing director of Three Hearts Healing and Nutrition Center located in Barbados, where she serves as integrative nutrition health coach, mind body eating coach, counseling practitioner, and thermographer. We'll have to hear about that. Carol's faith in God is fundamental for her personal life and the work in helping others. Her mission is to help others help themselves while taking responsibility for their lives and health. John Ramirez is a former personal chef whose passion for holistic well-being led him into health coaching. His own challenges with food and body led him to the world of nutrition and to discover the role of our thoughts and feelings in our relationship with food. As a certified mind-body eating coach, John empowers people to transform their eating and health challenges using the power of the mind. And Nancy Houston John is a national board certified health and wellness coach, a functional medicine certified health coach, a certified mind-body eating coach, and an ISA certified elite personal trainer. Nancy's the owner of Root Cause Health Coaching, where she focuses on serving those with thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases, and weight challenges. So welcome to all our 4 panelists. It's so good to have you here today. So I want to ask all of you, and I guess we can start with Candy. Tell us what caused you to look for a program like the Mind Body Eating Coach certification training. I mean, there's obviously a lot of other certifications out there. You have a lot of them. So what did you see in this one that drew you to the program?
As you note from my my bio, I'm a menopause doula. So it's one of the things I've studied. I went through my own midlife challenge or midlife transition through menopause and whatnot. And so lots of different things were coming up for me. And so I was really looking for a program because before I had kind of been doing some weight loss coaching, and it no longer felt in alignment with who I was, to be really honest, as I was going through this transition myself. And I really wanted something that came from the heart. I'm also a very spiritual person, and some of the things that I had seen in the marketing pieces from Mark David and from the Institute spoke about a holistic approach and spoke about a mind, body, and the spiritual. And that's actually what drew me to his program. I can go out and find bunches of information on nutrition anywhere. We all can. But I really wanted this understanding of how it all played together. And so, like you, I love how you said a full body yes. It was just like, yes, and a full body yes. And it was that piece around spirituality. It was that piece around the holisticness, and also kind of a more feminine approach instead of more masculine approach. So I loved that a lot.
I had to unmute myself. Sorry about that. Yeah, I relate to everything you're saying. And that sounds like it was that full body yes, there's nothing to replace that. That feels so good. Okay, so how about you, Carol? Why don't you tell us, what led you to the training, and, why it might have been a full body yes for you too?
Right. It was a full body yes for me because I was in the position of working as a health coach already. And so many of the persons I were working with, whether male or female, were having all these challenges with wanting to lose weight. And I was like, okay, if there was magic between eat less and exercise more, it would have done it a long time ago. And so for me, that just was not doing it. And so I'm like, there has to be something else. There has to be something more. And I was kind of on that search for something more. Obviously, my background being in psychology, it clicked when I, became aware of the program. It was just like, all right, this has to be it. Because, even now you find that working with persons, you have to sort some of this out before the rest would follow. So it was just, for me, it was the perfect tool for bridging those two things together. They're important, but there was something missing. And I found that to be in the program.
Yeah, that is actually one of my next questions. I was going to ask people about the missing ingredient, because I feel like it really did fill in that gap. Because you're right, it's not just about numbers. And if it were, then we would all have whatever, most of those issues resolved. So I'm glad that you found the missing piece and have this amazing practice. What about Nancy?
So for me, it's actually a combination of everything that was already said. I was actually looking for something dealing with my own emotional eating issues. I was experiencing a lot with my clients, and I thought, well, how am I going to help them when I haven't quite figured this out yet? So as is most reasons that I get into my various certifications, it's like, I need to figure this out for myself, and then I can help others through this. And yeah, I also love the spiritual approach to things. I'm very much into the science and why things are, working the way they are and the biology behind it. But I'm also very spiritual, and that part is missing from a lot of medicine. And so I work in functional medicine, and the heart of that is the mental, emotional, spiritual piece of it. So this was just a natural fit for what I truly believed people were missing. I literally wrote it down earlier when I was taking notes. Like, I thought this was the missing puzzle piece that I'm still finding that with my clients today, that this is, you can check all the other boxes, and the stuff that Mark teaches is that's the last piece of it.
Yeah, it sounds like we all are in alignment with that. What about you, John?
Okay, so for me, I remember, I want to share you a story, because I remember when I was in the university, they asked me, so why you want to become a chef? And I was saying, oh, I love to eat. I love to eat. But this answer was a problem, because I wasn't able to stop. I was having emotional eating disorder. So I go into nutrition, but something was missing. Something was missing. I go so to research about nutrition, but no matter how well I eat, there was something missing, and it was my emotional part that I was like I don't know, like doing the nutrition thing like an obligation, So with the approach of the mind body eating, psychology eating, this changed all because it's a new way of relate about food, about how you do nutrition. So that was the thing.
Yeah, it's so different than any other programs or philosophies out there. And maybe just if any of you want to expand on like the missing ingredient, like you have a story about it, I'll share with you is that I was working with so many people who knew a lot about nutrition. Like they could practically write their own books, they had so much memorized, but there was this, they knew it, but there was this gap between knowing what to do and actually like doing it. And that's where I feel like the eating psychology fills in that gap, because it takes into account like the mind of the eater, and oftentimes we're just looking outside ourselves, right? And adding the numbers, nowadays counting macros or whatever, and just something wasn't adding up. And when I actually learned about how mindset plays a role, and it not just affects us, what we're thinking, but it affects also our physiology, it just changed everything. It changed everything for me personally, because I was trapped in like I called it eating perfectionism. So I'm curious, does anyone have a story since on this theme of the missing piece of the nutrition puzzle that they want to share? Anyone? Yeah, Candy.
Okay. And this talks about more of the things that I learned through the program, right? So initially, that's the reason why I jumped in. But one of the things that I was kind of reviewing, like before this, one of the beautiful things that I was remembering and love about the program is really this idea of, you kind of touched on it, perfectionism. And just for me, the missing piece that I got, a huge missing piece that I got through doing the program, was realizing how that mindset of perfectionism had woven through everything in my life. So not only did I, really benefit and get so much out of it for myself, but I started to see this pattern of perfectionism everywhere in the world and with my clients, and how it drove them because they were coming from a perfectionistic mindset, and how much we don't really often see it. We don't realize it, and we don't realize it that it's putting our bodies into that not rest and digest mode, but into that sympathetic nervous system, agitated nervous system. And so what I loved was all of the foundations that kind of made way to understand the nervous system, the body as a whole, the mind, etc., as a whole. But that was one of the really big missing pieces for the mindset and the emotional piece that I took away, is like, holy mackerel, perfectionism has been running me like nobody's business. And holy mackerel, I see it all over with my clients too. And that has made a really, really big difference in what I do and how I work with my clients, as well as just my own mindset day to day.
Okay, I relate to that so much. And it was my big wake up call when I took the program, and I realized that, it didn't matter how much kale and quinoa and superfoods that, I was eating. If I was having the stressful thoughts, I was putting my body, like you said, in stress response, not in rest and digest. And we don't even realize our thoughts can affect our nervous system. So that was it was so impactful when I learned that. And there's not a single client talk or anything that I do where I don't talk about it, because a lot of people don't realize that. So thank you for sharing, Candy. Does anyone else have a story, or should I move on to the next question? No stories? All right. So we are going to talk about eating challenges, which many of us have. And I feel like that holds us back sometimes from feeling like that we can help other people. So before you enrolled and became a certified Mind Body Eating coach, did you have any food and body challenges? And were you worried that that was going to get in the way of you being able to take the program and be successful with the program and then be able to help other people? Okay. Nancy, I see your hand.
Yeah, so I already touched upon, so I've dealt with emotional eating pretty much most of my life, just didn't realize it. Obviously, when I was younger, that was a coping mechanism, and dealt with weight challenges, became an athlete, so kind of worked my way through that. But the emotional eating never went away. Then found functional medicine, had my own, I was chronically ill for 8 years, severely ill. That's how I came to be in functional medicine. And yeah, so when I got into this program, or when I was looking at it, of course, there was the fear of, well, am I going to be help others? Because I don't really have my own stuff figured out yet. And one of the most helpful things, and I still think of it and reference Mark, I reference Mark almost daily. He said, you only have to be one step ahead of someone to help them. I love that. I think I have it written on my vision board over there. Because some of the things that I still run into, I definitely don't have this all figured out. I am not a perfect health coach. I live a very regular life with teenagers and a husband and craziness around here. And so that, just hearing that from him settled me to think, okay, well, I just need to stay one step ahead of the person that I'm helping. And that has really made a difference in my mindset. I don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay if I don't know something, I can go look something up, but I have, traveled this road a little more than the average person that I'm helping. So yeah, I am qualified. I went through those same hesitancies with another of my courses, that I thought I wasn't qualified enough. And my mentor in that coaching program as well told me, your experience is what makes you knowledgeable. It's not necessarily just the material, it's what you also bring to that material. So your own personal experience is, gold. And we know that people's stories, that's where the gold is. So for me, I did have, hesitancy, didn't know that I was going to be able to do it perfectly. Didn't think I looked, necessarily fit enough. I was still coming out of my own health challenges, but realized it's, again, meshing with Candy, like, it's okay not to be perfect. Not everyone has everything figured out. It actually makes you more relatable, like if you don't have all your stuff together. And so that's, puts me in I'm not comfortable in that spot, but that was a big part of the growth. So much growth came from this program. I can't even explain it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And also, when you were talking, I was thinking that you must be the most compassionate and empathetic coach, because, you've been through it. So you can understand when your clients are struggling and what they're struggling with, that you have the experience. So you're not just coming from that authoritative, I studied this, but I actually lived this.
I will say that's what resonates with so many people. They just the tears just come. Everyone cries in my sessions, and I'm like, it's okay. It's pretty normal. They're just so relieved to have someone hear them and not judge them, and also have been there, and also to provide hope that, oh, I can improve in this area. It's not, there's nothing wrong with me. This makes sense. All of these things make sense, my habits and how I got here. And this person can help guide me and support me as we figure it out, So yeah, I do feel like people, they just resonate when you are approachable, when you're a human, and say, yeah, that I've been there too. I get it.
Yeah, and the stories, they really connect us to one another. Does anyone else want to share their experience of the eating challenges, and whether they thought it was going to be an obstacle before enrolling in the training program? I know you touched on it, John. So anyone else have anything they want to say about this? No, okay. Well, we have lots of questions. Oh, John, you want to contribute?
Yes, I want to say that with the program, you start because when you have an eating challenge, it becomes like a way to go into hating you, like oh, why you are doing that? What are you doing? Because sometimes it's like we are in our stress response. So it's like an animal. I don't know. We just want to go to the kitchen and grab all the things, and I have been there. So with the program, I start to realize a new way of managing my frequency there, because if you are with hate, with self-betrayal, you are going to do more stress in your body. So it's more, the program helped me to be patient with me, to be compassionate with me, to have self-love, in that times, so you can recover from that. So that's.
Well, that leads me, John, to the next question, because I am curious if any of you can share, like John did, what were some of your personal transformations that you experienced when going through the program? Like maybe something that was a little surprising or shocking to you. I know for me, like I didn't realize that my perfectionism was such a problem, and because for as long as I can remember, I was always like that. So, you kind of you get used to the conversations in your head, you get used to your patterns and insecurities. And then when you're alerted, like that can be a huge wake up call. And so I'm curious, in studying and learning about the mind and how mindset around food really makes a difference. Did you change? Did you have any big aha moments or personal transformations that you might want to share with everyone? All right, Candy, I saw your hand up first.
Touched on it a bit, but I want to weave this next part of this into the story. I still kind of remember almost the moment and Mark's like face on the screen when he was sharing this, when he talked about there's some modules on emotional eating, and I have done emotional eating in my life, but there was this different kind of come from for him. It was so compassionate. And he just said something really simple in one of the modules. It was just like, sometimes you're going to emotionally eat. And it was that phrase that really kind of brought that perfectionism that I had started to see to a new level. It was like, oh my gosh, I had been trying to be perfect at not being an emotional eater. And so just the drive and the expectation that I started to see, I was like, holy cow, I've been trying to be a perfect non-emotional eater. And just the permission that he gave, because it's all with this foundation of like making sure you're in that parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest state, just so much compassion and love. That really affected me and shifted so much inside of me, and as a result, able to provide that as well for my clients. But that was one of my biggest ahas. It was like, oh gosh, I don't have to be a perfect non-emotional eater. It was awesome.
I love that you developed like compassion and more self-love, because it's so much easier to get to where you want to be when you use that lens instead of that self-hate. And John also mentioned that. Do you have any personal transformation stories, either Nancy or Carol? Okay, Carol.
Okay, so from myself, one of the things that really transformed my life was the concept that symptoms are just, your symptoms are a pointer. That has blown my life away. And the first place I noticed it was in the area of impulsivity. So what got my attention again is the symptoms. So as I kind of went through my own health and healing journey, I was happy where I was going, but I noticed that if something popped into my head, I had to do it, right? So something popped into my head, I had to go get it or go eat it or whatever it was. And I said, Mark says your symptoms are a pointer. And so I started to say, okay, if this is a pointer, where else is this evident in my life? And I realized it wasn't only in the eating caught my attention, but I realized there was impulsivity in so many areas. So I may be driving and something pops into my head. Oh, you know what? I was supposed to message Candy. And so I would like, okay, I'm driving, but I have to get on the phone to try to go message Candy. Or I may be in my prayer time and something pops in my head. Oh, I'm supposed to send this WhatsApp. And I would go. And I realized that, wow, if you look at it, and you get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem was my lack of self-control when those impulses hit me. I wasn't processing them. And so once I started to look and see where else was this happening, where was this pointing me in my life, I was able to plug the root. And so that made it easy. Oh, okay, here. So I wasn't working on not eating. I was now working on not being impulsive, demonstrating self-control, and making the choices and decisions that was going to take me where I needed to go. And with so many of my clients, I have to say, okay, there's the symptom, this is what caught your attention, but it's only a pointer. So let's look deeper and find that root so we can pluck it out.
I love that. And also when you get to the root, then you don't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. There's that expression like the universe will keep giving you the same message, right? Until you finally deal with it. But that's so profound. And it sounds like your life is more peaceful now. Nancy, did you want to say anything?
But something that came to my mind is, and it's been mentioned briefly, but with regards to the self-compassion part of it, being kinder and gentler to yourself. When I bring up some of the concepts that I've learned in this course to my clients, it's almost like they breathe a sigh of relief because it just sounds so, it resonates so much with them. I'm always like, follow the breadcrumb. If that sounds good to you, we should go over here and, and talk about this or think about this. And so if I didn't make great choices in the past, there were, years ago, it'd be like, oh my gosh, I ate that now, and I'd feel bad about it and, criticize myself over that. And now it's like, okay, that wasn't a great choice, but I really wanted it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I literally did it the other day. I was like, I'm gluten and dairy free. So I was like a gluten dairy free bagel and I found this bakery and I got one and I was like, okay, this doesn't have my protein, doesn't have my healthy fat, doesn't have my color. And I sat there with my daughter and I ate it and I so thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm like, this did not meet any of my requirements, but I literally haven't had something this good in like 10 years. That made me I was like, this actually tastes like legitimate bagel. I told my daughter, I was so excited about it. And she tried to talk to me. I go, no, I literally need 2 more minutes just to savor this bagel. Please just let me go. And I told my client later that day, I was like, I'm very transparent. I was like, yeah, I didn't eat perfectly this morning. I came home and ate like what I should have eaten. I was like, I really love that. It was so good. And he taught me, about pleasure again with food, because some of us who have been really restricted throughout our lives, because I did have weight challenges when I was younger, and then I was like, okay, I have to eat this certain way. I never got to the point counting calories. That would have driven me crazy. But so many people have, and even a client I had this morning, 70 something, counting calories and doing more, and she's not getting the results in all these years. And so I finally got to the point where, and she wasn't just weight, that's part of her challenge, but now we finally got to the point of weight, and I was like, okay, you ready to go here? Because my approach is very different. It's not, the weighing and the move more and the less calories. And she goes, that sounds amazing. She's like, that's actually refreshing. That's why I say it's the missing piece, because the other part, as we said, it's not working. Otherwise, everyone would be, it's the perfect formula and we wouldn't have overweight people, right? So I don't know, just the whole thing of being nicer to yourself, giving yourself permission to have pleasure, not, having that critic, moving on. Yeah, I ate a bagel and then I ate regular the rest of the day and I felt great about it. I didn't, punish myself. I don't consider it a cheat. I don't like that word. Nothing is bad. It's just everything in moderation. It's just been so much of a more relaxed approach to eating. I think that is a beautiful thing.
And also, it's like the joy is brought back. When we were little, we had more joy with food, and then somewhere along the way, we forgot it. And it sounds like we've all had like those shackles sort of released and been able to, find the joy. And as Mark says, vitamin P for pleasure, because it does wonderful things for our bodies and our lives. And that this is just freeing. It's just a much more freeing approach, and you can still be healthy and make great choices, but without all those like thoughts that get in the way from getting there. All right. So let's talk about when you were making the decision to enroll in the program. So imagine, all our participants today, they're like wondering, is this the right training program for me or not? Did you have objections, on whether you would be able to be successful doing a program virtually, whether you had the right background for this, like you needed to know more about nutrition, or, just any sort of like concerns you had, and what happened once you took the program? Were they justified or not? Maybe you're too busy, like that it was going to take too much time from your schedule. So I'd love to hear how it played out and what you were thinking before you actually enrolled. Everyone's thinking, because now you're probably like, of course I enjoyed the program and got so much out of it. I don't even remember what what the mind was doing or objecting to. Okay, Candy, we'll start with you.
I think that's accurate, what you just said, because I'm so far past where those objections may have been. I think maybe a tiny one that I had back when is that I wasn't like a registered dietitian or a certified nutritionist, quote unquote, yet type of a thing, but I had so much background. And so I think a tiny little piece would be, oh my gosh, I'm not expert, hello perfectionism, right? Expert enough in nutrition yet. And that was actually resolved as I read more about the program and attended. I think there was maybe a seminar like this before I even attended, but really driving again home why I chose it, which was it's not about the food. And there is nutrition in the program, but it's simple and as well as robust enough to make somebody feel really healthy, right? And so I think that was a tiny little piece maybe that was in my mind if there was an objection. But again, I love the come from. It's actually not about the food. It's about the mind, the emotions, all the things, and that type of thing. And that was really in line with who I was and what I believed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did anyone else feel like, oh no, I don't know if I can do this program right now? I was worried about having a full experience virtually, and we're going back to when not as much was virtual, but that really concerned me because, I do love in-person connection, but I felt like the virtual experience was you still connected with people and, got a lot out of it. And it's amazing that you can do it virtually, but I was worried about that when I enrolled. All right, Nancy.
I wasn't so much worried about the virtual part of it. Another one of my coaching certifications was virtual. And so we met monthly on that. And I knew what a cohort felt like and that we can have this type of interaction, which I think is amazing because not everyone around me in my area thinks like me. So I'm like, oh, these people are right here, like in front of me. This is awesome. I wasn't nervous about that part. I guess I was a little nervous about the time, how much time it was going to take because, I am a busy mom and I have my practice and I coach field hockey and I got a million things that I'm juggling. But it was very doable. It was definitely able to fit it in. Everyone has different styles of how they learn. So I do like to take a lot of notes. I'm a note taker. So some people could just listen to the recordings and it just all sinks in. I like to write things down. And there were so many pieces of gold in Mark's in Mark's talks that I'm like, no, I had to write that down too. So I took a more like a dedicated student approach to it versus I'm going to listen to everything, just absorb it and go with it. That's my learning style. But the time for me was like, I don't know, am I going to be able to fit this in? Is it yet another thing? But the material was so good, I don't care. I made time for it anyway, because instead of, reading a book, if I got time for an hour, I would listen to something like this. And then it was still like, and I was able to apply it. I was able to apply it right away to my work. So it was really like I was studying for my work and then bringing it to my clients the next day. So it was even more motivating. Like, oh, I have this client who's really having weight issues. Like, I got to get into this module so I can like help her with that. So I was very motivated, but the time thing that was my biggest hang up, and that was not an issue.
That's amazing that you could, take on your mom role and, do this while you were working too and fit it in and not just like multitask and listen to the lectures or the different modules, I guess. I agree. I'm like you. I had to take notes because there were too many like things that stopped me in my tracks, and I couldn't be doing anything else. I had to listen and take notes. And I found that that was what I wanted to do, so instead of like we have time to scroll. I mean, Instagram didn't even exist then, but like we have time to scroll, we'll take a little less time scrolling and actually, do one of the modules. And I think like you said, you can fit it in. And if you fall behind one week, then you catch up the next too. That's also, the beauty of doing something virtually and on your own time. So does John or Carol, do either of you want to talk about any objections that you had? John, we'll let you go.
So I was having objections with the price, but also the Mind Body team offers a scholarship. So I applied to the scholarship, I sent a video, and I win the scholarship, and it helps so much. So for the people that don't have the money, this is another option.
Well, congratulations. I'd love to see that video at some point because I'm sure it was so moving if you got the scholarship from it. But thank you for raising that. And Carol, do you want to add anything to this conversation? We're good. Okay. So everybody's already brought up something they took away, or not just something, lots of concepts, but what was the most profound concept that affected the way you worked with people, affected you personally, that you got out of the Mind Body Eating coach certification training? Carol. Oh, Nancy. Sorry, Nancy's hands up.
That's okay. I was like, oh no, I thought it was me. But there's so many things, but just something that I repeat. I contract with 2 different doctors, and I'm a functional medicine health coach. So it's very much, with supplements and particular eating plans and things like that. But then when we get into the weight part of things, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. Okay. Oh, so I'm working a lot with people with regards to the cephalic-based digestive response and being present with their food before they eat and how they eat. So I talk, it's not just about what they're eating. A lot of them are doing the right things, but I have a lot of fast eaters. I have a lot of people who are doing something at the same time, and just not being present. So I don't know how many times I say this throughout the week, but I'm just constantly reflecting back on it. And it's called the cephalic-based digestive response. We're eating with our senses. We need to be present with our food and going through the whole, that is a piece that many people are missing. And when I talk about how much of the digestion is, how much that part is responsible for digestion, they are like, oh, okay. So maybe it's not easy habits to break, but just bringing their attention to it. Again, there's so many concepts, but that is one that I constantly, in my line of work, I keep bringing up a lot.
Yeah, that's also it also goes back to the missing piece, because so often we're very fixated on the what you're eating and not necessarily on the how. And there's so many hows that we could do better on, just the multitasking and what you mentioned, the fast eating and all of that. Does anyone else want to share their big huge. Okay, Candy, your turn.
Like Nancy, there are just honestly so many. But from in the very first modules, I learned, and he teaches about how we're disembodied and disconnected. And he goes in, and again, I spoke to like a spiritual belief system for me, and that just really, really resonated, that so many of us just feel so disconnected from, and we can call it a higher power, we can call it from our higher self, or whatever we want to call it. And as a result, we try to control how we feel through being perfect eaters or perfect, that type of a thing. And again, kind of going back to the perfectionism, but having that foundation of understanding, wow, there's a really, really important and valid reason why we're feeling this way, is because internally, we are seeking to feel connected. We are seeking to feel connected either to the higher power, to our heart and our soul, our inner wisdom, our higher self. And again, and it kind of speaks to something Carol said earlier, and like just the issues with food are the periphery, and they are essentially showing us the next level of our higher evolution. And I loved that I loved that that foundation. It's just all pointing to helping us be the next best version, our next evolved version, our higher version of ourselves, and that it's all just connected. And I think that's all I got. So, yeah.
Well, that's not at all, because it's such a huge thing, being disconnected from your body and not knowing any other way isn't, how you ideally want to go through life. And that is such a huge, like, aha and takeaway, and so profound on many levels.
And then going into the conversation about embodiment, just having that foundation, and just, so good, connected to pleasure, all those things. It was beautiful.
I love how you really are focused on the feminine part of nutrition. I could feel that. And that's something that I learned a lot, about how we're so masculine, go, go, go. And that, when we embrace that feminine side, we can, and this isn't a male female thing, because males can embrace the feminine side too, but we allow more, and we let our bodies work for us. We're not working against it. It's just such a better way to live, not just around food, but just to be.
Thinking about
yeah.
a partnership together instead of control. So huge.
So huge. Carol, all right, let's hear about your profound takeaway from the training program.
Right. So for me, it was really about the fact, and Mark David used to say, sometimes you have to go to places that people will not necessarily be comfortable, right? You have to be willing to go to those places. And so, for example, I had a 26-year-old girl came in with acid reflux and, and esophageal issues and just not feeling well. And, she was very severely overweight. And I didn't touch the health issues at all. I'm like, okay, we had to go to some moral issues. We had to go to some lifestyle issues and a little bit of her spirituality. And we went there and we dealt with the mind of it all initially. And once we did that, and she realigned herself, she came in more of alignment with who she truly was. Next, I didn't see her for a little bit, and she was working on herself. And then we ended the session where she'd lost 37 pounds, right? Because were able to deal with some of the issues, and another client, 64-year-old woman, all these digestive issues, brain fog, almost to depression, all these kind of things. And as I was kind of meditating and thinking, where was the action? Because Mark was always talking about, where's the action? And once it came to me, the Spirit said to me, ask her if there's something that happened in her life that she digested, didn't assimilate well, didn't excrete, that was holding there. And she was like, no, no, no. But when we finally got there, there was a major issue in her life, which she was holding on to. And when she excreted it from her system, she was totally different person. So we have to be able to go to issues, and some of these are deep-rooted issues. And Omar always say, start with a low-hanging fruit. And sometimes you can start with a low-hanging fruit, but sometimes you have to go to the heart of the matter. But the reality is, when you're prepared to go where others are not, everybody would have gone to her with nutrition and, you know, you have enough digestive enzymes, and, you know, and that was important too, but that was not the root of her problem. The root of her problem was that there was stuff inside that her digestive system, as I said, your digestive system is mirroring exactly what is happening in your life. And I said, watch and see, when we find a resolution, those digestive issues are going to disappear. So she comes back and boasts, all my health work is, all my blood work is good, everything is good, because she had dealt with the real issue and finally excreted it from her system. So very powerful for me and in the work that I was doing.
Wow. Well, that answer reminds me to ask some of the other panelists whether there have been things, you know, that they've been able to do now, you know, practices, or, you know, just something like profoundly shifted with the way that you work with other people once you got the tools and went through the training program. So what opportunities, you know, has it afforded you as a coach working with other people? I see Candy's shaking her head. Go for it.
I can shake my head all day. Quick example, just yesterday working with a client, unraveling that it's never about the food. Helping them, and I love the way that Carol set that up, is just unraveling the pieces and the stories. I know a little bit about kind of, I love your concept of food story, but unraveling the pieces of the story that we have collected through our lives about ourselves, about who we are, about our worth, etc. And really just unraveling that. And I had a beautiful experience yesterday with a client, and it's always one of my favorite parts after we've been working together, kind of deconstructing and healing and whatnot after a certain amount of time-ish. And it gets to the point where they finally have this aha, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's not about the food. It's about how I take care of myself. It's about how I'm kind to myself. It's about how I choose to believe about my worth, and how I choose to believe that I am worthy. And that's always a beautiful aha when somebody can connect, and when somebody does connect to the power of their own worth, just being innate, and noticing how different pieces of the story, the nurture, the nature, the thing that we go through in this life will distract us from that. And it's really powerful.
That is very powerful, and a lot different than telling people what to eat or helping them choose what to eat. Does anyone else want to share, you know, something that really shifted in their ability to work with people after going through the program? Okay, Nancy's hand is up.
Something that I've used a lot with my clients is when they are emotionally eating, when they're ready to go there. Not everyone's ready to go there right away. To get them to start to think about how old they are when they are emotionally eating. And I had, you know, a client the other day, and I think she's 70. And she's not really one to really go there, but I was like, we're coming to the work that you're doing all the other right things. I was like, can we be like really direct and blunt? And you can tell I'm pretty authentic. I'm like, this is how it is. Do you want to hear it? Like, here's, if I had 10 minutes with you, here's what we would, here's some low hanging fruit for you still. And when I brought that concept up to her, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go. She went right for it. And she literally brought up the age, the conversation that she had with her parents, the circumstances, what it looked like. I mean, it was a crushing story. And I was like, okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. And I feel like even if I just start to bring that to her attention, to be like, make that connection, it was already right there. It came right to the surface. And so I always think that's a pretty cool thing to get them to start to think about. And that's not just about what I'm doing right now. And I know what I'm supposed to do when I'm an adult and I know all the right things to do. And okay, but there's more to it. Like, what other part of you in there is also weighing in on the eating portion of things? That's where the good stuff is. That's where a lot of more missing pieces are. And so when people start to make those connections and have those ahas, and then you just sit back and kind of like wait for it, that's a lot. That's a lot for people to, I usually like, okay, here's your goals for next time. It's like, okay, you have a lot to think about right now. Just let all that kind of settle and see what comes to the surface. And but it's kind of amazing when someone says, wow, never thought about that. But then all of a sudden, and right away, they can picture something right away. So it was ready. It was there. It's just no one posed that question to them before.
Yeah, I remember when I first learned about that, the concept of, trying to, when asking the client, when did this all begin? And getting them to actually see if, if they could make the connection, whether it was a specific event, a move, a family, parents getting divorced or something, or over as, a period of time. And I've seen so many people go like white, like just like when they make that connection. I've never thought about that before. And it is such a great tool to get to the root of, probably a challenge that they've dealt with for most likely a long time. Thank you for sharing that. John, did you want to add anything to this?
Yes, I think that something that Mark says in the training about slow down, because we live in this modern world that is going like so fast that we are rushing through life, and sometimes we go into that mode, and this is going to make us go up in stress, and we can calm down, when what they were saying about being with the being embodied with the food that we are eating. Sometimes it's very uncomfortable to do this because we live in a world that is so fast paced. So slowing down and seeing how to relax our bodies is something that can help very much the people. And this happened to me with a client in which she realized that what was the problem was that she was like working, but never has time to her. So it's so much about relaxing and about learning how to take care of ourselves also.
That is a good one. And Mark's book, The Slow Down Diet, is really what drew me all to, this work. But I mean, I have so many clients and people and friends and colleagues are like, I want a moment. Like I'm go all the time. And I'm like, wait, you're also creating this go, and so I love that we get the tools to be able to help people like redesign their life, so that they don't have to like fall prey to that. They don't have to go, like you said, John, all the time. And that it actually hurts us and takes us away from fully enjoying and being present. So that's good. So I want to ask you all one question before our final wrap up, and that is about success. So we all define success in different ways, but when it comes to coaching, most of us are looking for a stable, consistent roster of clients, or doing work we love, or making a certain amount of money in the process. Can you share what success looks like for you currently, and how did the Mind Body Eating Coach certification training help you get there? Anyone want to? I'll say that, like, for me, being able to have, like, I created a platform where I could help people. And, even if it's just getting someone to slow down or to think about, not eating and multitasking, like all those little things have a profound impact on, the little things that we share can make a huge difference. And so I'm just so grateful that I have the platform and then I've been able to do all the things that I can. And, of course, like money is good or book deals and all of that. But at the end of the day, I want people not to be in their mind struggling. And I feel like the program has really allowed me to help people get away from that, that mental prison. Okay, Nancy.
I think it's a successful day for me when I've helped someone make a connection about themselves, like to themselves, not necessarily even a huge aha, even if I make them pause and consider something that they never thought of, or giving them the space to sit and watch as they really think it through and kind of coach themselves once in a while. That I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. I asked one thing and here they go. And this is, they already have that innate wisdom. And to see that come forward, and I'm just like the witness to it, sometimes that's kind of an amazing feeling. But just knowing that I did my best that day, I shared whatever knowledge I had or my experience, if it was relevant, and I made a connection with someone. And if I helped them in any way, that there's that trickle down effect too. I work with so many moms, and then they're passing these things on to their kids, and they're getting them to, eat color, or they're, saying you can't watch TV while you eat. Like, we need to sit at the table. We're going to sit at the table as a family, or I don't know. So, or giving those moms that same permission. Yeah, you ate something that like wasn't ideal. That's okay. That makes sense. Was it good? I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, good. I don't know, just helping people to make those connections with themselves and also be kinder to themselves in this whole process, instead of kind of the rat race of like, I have to look a certain way. My weight isn't exactly how I want it on the scale. And just kind of bringing their awareness to there's so much more than that number on the scale.
Yeah, love it. And anyone else want to share what? Okay, so both Candy and Carol. Carol, you want to go?
I'll be quick. For me, my program, I run a program, so it's usually in a session of eight sessions, a block of 8 sessions. And so success for me is when someone comes in to the office initially and they are distraught, their lives are, they have no idea where they're going or how they're going to begin to pick up the pieces of their life or where they need to go. And then we come to the end of the session and they're saying, thank you, someone said, thank you for saving my life, or thank you for being there and walking through with me, because that's my hallmark. I walk with you and not just, it's not just when you're in the office. So that's what success for me, when people are truly healed, regardless of the weight on the scale at the end of the day.
All right, Candy, we'll go quick because I have one more question that I want everyone to answer before we wrap up.
When I help someone learn to trust themselves and their own body wisdom and create a space where their nervous system can be calm, healed, so that they can connect to that. And that's one of the most beautiful things, when they learn to trust themselves and trust their body. That's success.
That sure is. Okay. Those are all amazing definitions of how you found success. So if you could give one piece of advice to those considering the training, what would that be? Real quickly. Mine is do it. That I have never, 10 years later, 10 plus years later, I haven't looked back. One of the best decisions I've ever made.
You will not regret it. There's mine.
Yeah, do not hesitate, I was going to say.
John.
Just do it.
Carol.
your life will be forever changed.
Love it. Thank you to all the panelists. You are doing incredible work. The answers were so compelling and profound, and you know, you all are doing different things, but we're united with eating psychology and the way that we want to support people. And thank you to all the participants who spent the last hour with us. We hope we answered your questions and concerns, and that you enroll in the program if it speaks to you, and that you end up doing beautiful things like all of these panelists. Thank you.